Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Vayishlach, we are told a story that is difficult to understand. Let's quote directly from the book of Genesis. Quote, "And Jacob was left alone, and there a man wrestled with him until daybreak. And when the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh, which went out of joint as he wrestled with him. And the man said, 'Let me go, for the day breaks.' And Jacob said, 'I will not let you go unless you bless me.' And the man said to Jacob, 'What is your name?' And Jacob said, 'Jacob.' And the man said, 'Lo Yaakov ya'amer od shimcha ki im Israel. Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. Ki sarita im Elokim va'im anashim vatuchal. For you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed.'" Unquote. What do we make of this mysterious story? First, Israel means he who struggles with God. So the shadowy man represented God. The rabbis tell us that he was an angel, that is, an emissary of God, a robot programmed with a mission, as all angels are in the Jewish tradition. They have no independent will. The Midrash tells us that that angel was the guardian angel of Esau. Esau was Jacob's estranged twin brother, from whom Jacob was fleeing. The Talmud says that the angel's name was Samael, or venom of God. Our tradition tells us that every person, good or bad, has a guardian angel sent by God to look after his interests. This was not just a family feud. For the rabbis, Esau was the very embodiment of all evil, of all the antisemites who ever tried to destroy the Jews, of all the philosophies that contradict the Torah and its precepts. So the message is that antisemites can hurt us physically, as was done to Jacob, but cannot obliterate us, because Jacob emerged whole and even went on to greatness. Nevertheless, all we have left in every generation is a remnant. She'arit Yisrael, a remnant of Israel. Some congregations are even called that, She'arit Yisrael. But this remnant is always there. The phenomenon of Jewish survival against all odds, what our enemies called the scandal of Jewish survival, has never ceased to amaze. Some even see in it a proof of the existence of God. End of part 1, the part we all like to hear. Part 2, none of us wants to hear. But here it is anyway. What is absolutely mind-boggling is not so much that we survived against external enemies who wanted to destroy us, but that we have survived against apathy and hostility within our own ranks. Our numbers are so small today, not primarily because of the physical destruction of millions of Jews, but because of the spiritual, self-inflicted spiritual destruction of even more millions of Jews. You see, in every generation, only a small minority within the Jewish fold ensured the survival of Judaism. The majority did not care, or did not care enough. Many even actively supported putting paid to the Jewish experience and moving on to the fad of their day. If we have survived against all odds, it's no thanks to most of us. God Almighty can ensure some of us survive physical assaults, but what can even God do if we willingly abandon Judaism? He gave us free will. Let's review some Jewish history together. The Jews were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Midrash tells us that only 20% followed Moses in the exodus to the Promised Land. The rest, 80%, had gotten used to their lot in Egypt, assimilated, and perished. Whether one believes that story or not is not the point. The point is that the sages of the Talmud already knew and taught the point I'm making. Only a small minority ensured survival. And once out of Egypt, even that small minority complained non-stop and started worshiping a golden calf even as Moses was on Mount Sinai receiving the Torah. Moses taught them Judaism, but it was rough going. Tales of Torah rejection abound in the Bible. The book of Judges tells us that in the many centuries of the judges, quotes, every man did what was right in his own eyes, unquote. Periodic lapses were sometimes followed by minor religious revivals, such as during the reigns of King Hezekiah or King Josiah. But the losses during the lapses were generally permanent. The Assyrian destroyed the northern kingdom and deported its people, and 10 out of 12 tribes of Israel assimilated and vanished. 10 out of 12 tribes consigned to the dustbin of history. The two surviving tribes of Judah and Benjamin held on a little longer in the south, but the Babylonian came, destroyed the temple in 587 BCE, and carried the Jews in captivity. The Talmud tells us this happened because in those days the people were guilty of the three cardinal sins of Judaism: idolatry, adultery, and murder. The psalmist tells us that the Jews wept bitterly by the rivers of Babylon as they remembered Zion. Quote, "How can we sing the songs of the Lord in a foreign land?" Unquote, they wondered. But to their credit, they did, unlike the other 10 tribes. Then 70 years later, the Babylonians were conquered by the Persians, and King Cyrus told the Jews, "Good news, you may go back home." But the vast majority, born in exile, did not want to go. They had built comfortable lives for themselves and did not want to move. A small group of Jews returned, but did not make a mark. Years later, a second expedition, led by capable, strong-willed, visionary Ezra the scribe, was more successful. Together with Nehemiah, Ezra rebuilt Judaism on a strong foundation and created the Great Assembly to make central decisions for all. But all told, no more than 20% of the Jews went back home. Then the Greeks came and won the hearts of millions of Jews with their philosophy. We are told that 1 million Alexandrian Greek Jews assimilated and vanished into history. That's in only one city. Then the Romans came, and many Jews adopted their ways. Why not side with the mighty superpower? The Romans drowned 2 Jewish revolts in blood, destroyed the Second Temple, and forbade the practice of Judaism. It looked like this was the end of the road. But one man, octogenarian Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai, reorganized the remnant of Jewry around prayer, the rabbis, and the oral law, and the adventure continued against all odds. The centuries marched on, each one bringing its own challenges and siren songs that drew large numbers of Jews away. Gnosticism, Christianity, Islam, Karaism, Sabbateanism, Frankism. The Jews may have enjoyed the golden age in Spain, but the truth is that when the Jews were expelled from Spain in 1492, only 1/3 remained Jews and left, among them my own ancestors. Another third converted, and the last third had already converted. So the majority crumbled under pressure. It not only crumbled, but produced Torquemada, the sadistic and murderous Grand Inquisitor, the grandson of Jews. Romantic stories abound about the Marranos, who practiced Judaism in secret while pretending to be Christians. But the reality is that that was at best a one-generation affair. The next generations were simply Christians, and the overwhelming majority had no intention of changing. Then the emancipation came, and long before the Holocaust, in the 19th century, a tidal wave of conversion and assimilation swept European Jewry. Conversion was the ticket to acceptance, to opportunities, to universities, to guilds, to jobs, to high society, to coveted positions, and large numbers of Jews willingly and eagerly paid the price. Then Zionism came, the movement to return to the ancient homelands. Most Orthodox Jews said, "This is anathema. Only the Messiah can rebuild the Jewish state." And some still say that. The powerful Reform in America said, "Not interested. We are past nationalism. Our job is to stay among the nations to spread the ethical values of Judaism. When all was said and done, only 5% of post-Holocaust Jewry was in Israel in 1948 to start the state. 600,000 Jews out of 12 million worldwide. The rest were mostly supportive, although many were indifferent and some were downright hostile. But they were not there. Even with the Holocaust at their backs, 95% of the surviving Jews were too comfortable to physically join in this epic rebirth. Then communism came and took its millions of Jews along with it, blinded by the promise of a utopian society. It is largely gone now, but most of the losses are irreversible. And in the last few decades, what has been going on? In the West, lax observance, assimilation, and loss of identity are progressing at a rapid pace, as in the Greek and Roman worlds of old. The result is a steady decline in numbers. Tens of thousands of Jews are eager and willing to explore every ism under the sun, except Judaism. The many cults that have sprung up in the 60s and 70s, the Hare Krishna and the Moonies and the Scientologists and what have you, have huge numbers of Jews in their ranks. Professional estimates place Jewish membership in American cults at 30%. 30% from a group that is only 2.5% of the general population. More than half of the Buddhists in the United States today are Jews. Jews for Jesus and Hebrew Christians and Messianic Jews are actively proselytizing. They bombard us with the message that Christianity is the only way to finally become a completed Jew. Holocaust survivors have covered their Jewish tracks and raised non-Jewish families that are ignorant of their Jewish roots because they could not bear the consequences of being Jewish. Every ism seems good to explore, jump into, and even lead, except Judaism. Secular Jewish thinkers write books where they dazzle their readers with their vast knowledge by quoting from every culture the earth has produced. But don't look there for a quote from the Talmud. They don't have time for it, by studious avoidance, no doubt. When Jews reach positions of prominence, many quickly bend over backwards to prove they are not partial to Jews or Judaism, and end up hurting Jews in the process. The phenomenon of Jewish self-hatred rears its ugly head, frequently manifesting itself in relentless criticism of the state of Israel, coupled with hostile activism, unbalanced by any praise or approval, let alone expression of love or, yes, gratitude. Some people may say, that's good, survival of the fittest. Let the faint-hearted leave our ranks. The rest of us will only be stronger. Let them give up their birthright. Let them weed themselves out if they wish. There's only one thing wrong with this logic. As one Orthodox rabbi put it to me with great emotion some 25 years ago, I don't want my children to be weeded out. Yes, in every generation, only a small minority of Jews has quietly ensured the survival of Judaism. The miracle is that this tiny minority is always there in every generation. If it skips even one generation, the light goes out. Some may believe that this tiny minority has the burning faith that God will not allow the remnant of Israel to perish. I take the opposite point of view. If you're convinced that God will take care of Jewish survival, then logically you should kick up your shoes, sit back and relax. You don't have to do anything and you shouldn't worry. It is precisely those who are not so convinced who would work hardest to ensure that survival, because they are haunted every day with the specter of the demise of Judaism. They are the ones who constitute that tiny minority. Presumptuously, they feel deep within their souls that the survival of Judaism depends on them personally. Would that we were all this presumptuous. The Siddur, the prayer book, says, Shomer Israel, Shmor She'erit Israel, ועל יאבד ישראל האומרים שמע ישראל. O guardian of Israel, protect the remnant of Israel, and do not allow the death of Israel, of the people who says, Hear, O Israel. Shabbat Shalom.